if we reframe, what does success mean? And if I was to reframe now and go back and talk to my 18-year-old self about what is success, for me, it's success is following your heart. Success is doing what brings you joy. Success is waking up in the morning and thinking, I cannot wait to start doing what my soul is calling me today, in whatever profession that is you're working in.
Welcome to Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective, where we journey alongside remarkable women who have dared to follow that little internal voice and create a life that's in alignment with who they truly are. If you're at a place in your life where you're asking yourself, what's next? Who am I? And what do I really want? Go to IamTheFreedomCollective.com and grab yourself the video series, The Power Within. This resource, it's free right now because I want to help empower as many women as I can. It'll give you 7 keys that were never taught in school or university, so you can gain a new level of clarity and start creating a life and work that reflects who you truly are. Now, I'm excited. Let's get into this incredible story. My special guest today is a soul healer, educator, and creative. She hosts women's circles and retreats to guide women in connecting authentically to self and one another. But there's been quite a journey along the way to getting to where she is now. She had to face burnout, a life-altering diagnosis, disability, chronic pain, and fatigue. And I know this is going to be a story of hope, encouragement, and empowerment. So Candy, thank you so much for making time to connect and share with us on Pathways to Purpose.
Hi, Tale. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here with you and to share this space with you and our listeners.
I'm really looking forward to digging into more of your journey, to hearing about your life and that transformation that you've been through. But to kick us off, can you share a moment when you felt completely disconnected from your purpose? You know, what was that turning point that set you on this path of healing and connection?
Definitely. I was diagnosed with endometriosis 6 years ago, and it came just after I had burnt out as a teacher working in the teaching profession. And I had had my surgery. Unfortunately, it left me chronically disabled and in pain. And I went through a process where I was no longer able to work and was medically discharged. That was painful enough in itself, but I think what was even more painful was just that process of recovery, which for me took a very, very long time. The healing, both of body and soul, and working through both the burnout and the surgery. And I think I had to spend a lot of time at home by myself. I was disengaged from community because I just didn't have the physical capacity to engage. And it was in that space where I really kept on coming back to myself and saying, do I want to remain in a teaching profession, which I don't feel is soul fulfilling, where, yes, I feel like I'm fulfilling some of my purpose or what I'm called to, but my real heart's call, and I've known it from a very young age, is to work with healing and seeing people emotionally and physically healed. And I think after spending a number of years, over a decade actually, in a profession that just wasn't giving me what my heart longed for. There were small glimpses of it, but not truly what I was looking for. I'm just like, when I recover, if I recover, whatever that may look like, I have limited time, I have limited energy, and I want to do what I actually love, what makes my heart come alive, what sparks joy in me, and where I see a difference in people.
So when you talk about you want to do what really brings your heart alive, could you identify that at the time? Did you already know what that was?
Yeah, I think I've always known that connection was important to me. It's one of my core values, as is doing work with people, you know, being a good friend, but also helping and mentoring them. I'm the counselor in my friendship group, so people come to me with their problems. I'm the same in the family, and with different relationships. Even people in the shops will tell me their life story. So it's just something that's always been there. But I think as I've matured and as I've aged, the more personal development I've done myself, the more I've refined what my values are, what my character strengths are, the more I've been able to hone in actually what brings me the most joy, you know, what lights me up the most. And that's when I realized it actually is connection. It's connecting with people. It's holding space for them. It's being empathic, and just loving on them. So yeah, I think there's definitely been a journey, to get to where I am now in my early 40s. And I think most people could testify to that. It's there. I think, you know, it was just hidden at times because of circumstances.
Do you think that your diagnosis and going through that chronic health journey, did that help you come to that place of like, I've got to do something different?
Yeah, in the nastiest of ways possible.
Yeah.
It did. And look, I would never go through that experience again if I had my time over. But it certainly gave me time to soul search. I think that's one thing about solitude and isolation is, you know, you're not left with anyone else but your own soul and your own thoughts and your connection with spirit. And so I had a lot of time for deep reflecting, a lot of time for sitting with what is my purpose in this world. And purpose has always been important to me. It's just I haven't always known how to pursue what my true purpose was, because I was trying to fit myself into the box that others wanted to put me in. So yeah, it was definitely a purposeful experience, as nasty and painful as what it was. I can still see where there was beauty in the brokenness, and that continues today. So
Looking back and with the wisdom and insight you have now, what would you pay attention to if you had your time over, and what would you do differently?
Firstly, I think when I left school, I sort of followed my heart, just traveled for a few years to get to know myself and who I was better.
Okay, can we slow down on that one for a second?
Yeah.
I feel like we just need to pay attention because that's really important, right? Let's take our time with these, because I remember having that similar desire to travel. After school, wanted to go travel, adventure, explore. And I didn't. I didn't, because the system that we all grew up in is what you do next after school is you get higher education, you do these things. Go get a job, get your security, get your life sorted, and then you can travel.
Yeah.
And I believed that, and I did that to the detriment of myself because I just kept putting it off. What that taught me was, oh, don't follow the things that are in your heart to do. Go do the sensible thing, right? Get your life sorted, which are great and needed, but it's just making sure that that's in alignment with the true essence of who you are. And so I kept putting that off to the point where I totally burnt out. And I know that you were at a point of burnout too. So taking our time with this discussion around, like, if you had your time over, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? Okay, so the first thing you've mentioned is after school, I wanted to go traveling.
Yeah. So I would definitely travel. That would be my first thing. And just because I did travel a bit later, after I finished my first degree, and it was in that travel, and it was only 6 weeks at that stage, that I learned so much about myself. And I think this is the thing in the Western world and the way we do our schooling system, where we finish school. And for many people, it's not the pathway for all nowadays, but for many people, it's then straight into uni. Because that's the right thing to do, right? That's a sensible thing. But at 18, you don't know yourself. I didn't know myself at 18. I had an inkling that I wanted to help people. I didn't know what that would look like or what particular area. And because I grew up with a very Christian worldview, I had a Christian worldview, and I lived really in a fishbowl. That was all I could see and all I could think of. And so there was an opportunity for me to explore outside what was expected of women in our faith tradition, 20 something years ago. And I think had I traveled, who I am now would have come a lot easier and quicker. So yeah, I would have traveled, but I would have followed my intuition a lot more. I probably would have engaged in different types of therapy, like somatic work, where you use your body to work through trauma. I would have got more engaged in creativity. I love free dancing in my living room. I love singing in the shower. I love joining choir or worship teams and singing, but I was shut down at a young age in school, and I was told that, no, you've done bad in art, you're going to be crap at creativity. So I really shut a part of that part of myself down as well. So I think, yeah, I wish I'd traveled. I wish I'd listened to my intuition more, and just followed my heart, because our heart will never lead us astray. And I think I did grow up being taught that our heart can lead us astray. And I've come to realize the older I get that no, my heart is never wrong. My heart knows the truth, because spirit lives in me and spirit resides in me. And if I tune into myself and I tune into that higher wisdom, I am always going to be on the right path. Doesn't mean that it's going to be comfortable or without challenges, because there still is always challenges, but knowing that I'm doing what I'm being called to, knowing that I'm following my intuition and following my soul, I think, yeah, it's profound. I think that's what we should be teaching in schools. If we actually taught people from the day they were born and they entered the school system at age 4, and were taught to listen to their heart and communicate heart to heart with other people, and love would be the foundation. And this is how we do relationships. Our whole society in the West would be so different to what it is now. We would have genuine connection with each other. And I think that's what we don't have a lot of in society. We don't have genuine heartfelt connection. We don't have people that are connected to themselves or connected to spirit. So people are often walking around aimlessly, or like myself, or like you shared, we go into careers and jobs and we burn out because we can't sustain doing what we were never called to do. We can't sustain going with the norm because that's what is expected of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is really important, because when I look back on my life and I think about the career that I had, I was really successful. And it's an easy tick the box society. Like anyone would look at my life and go, oh yeah, she's made it. But I was completely dead on the inside. And I think in this conversation, it can be really easy to go, oh, well, are these girls saying that don't work, just go travel? No, that's not what we're saying. I believe, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, I believe we're created to work. We're designed to work. We're supposed to work. Work is a gift. Work is a gift. But it's doing the right work for your time here on this earth.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree so much with what you're saying. And I think a lot of it comes down to, what do we define as success? Because as you said, you were in this great job, right? You were earning this great money, and everyone considered that success, but your soul was dying inside. And my story was a bit different. You know, I've been chronically ill since I was 14, with chronic pain, with chronic fatigue, and a number of other conditions before I got my endometriosis diagnosis. And success to me was never a 9-to-5 job. I couldn't physically sustain it, but success was having a respectable profession like teaching and remaining in your job and being faithful to that, even while I was dying on the inside. And so I think if we reframe, what does success mean? And if I was to reframe now and go back and talk to my 18-year-old self about what is success, to me, it's success is following your heart. Success is doing what brings you joy. Success is waking up in the morning and thinking, I cannot wait to start doing what my soul is calling me today, in whatever profession that is you're working in. Success doesn't mean 9-to-5, because I can't do 9-to-5. And when everything that looked like success was taken off me, when I was crippled by illness, when I was unable to work, when I spent pretty much 3 years flat on my back in bed, I had to realize that success wasn't holding a particular job. It wasn't working 9-to-5. Success for me was down to bare bones, really. Success was being able to get out of bed in the day. Success was being able to have a couple of phone calls a week with a girlfriend. And so, yeah, I think we really need to change, particularly as women in a patriarchal, male-dominated world. We can't compete, and why should we? We have to see what is it that our soul needs, and success is individual for every person. We can't have this blanket box. Well, if you're successful, if you get married, if you have 2.5 children, if you have a 9 to 5 job and you do that till you're 65 and then you die of stress or a heart attack, like that's
Mm-hmm.
not success. We live in a world that tells us that is success. No, success is so different for so many people.
Yeah.
Success is raising children as a single mum while chronically sick, but doing it because you know that you're called to motherhood. Success can
Mm-hmm.
be working part-time 2 half days a week because that's all your physical capability allows you to. Success can be volunteering at a hospital or helping people on the street. Success is just saying hi to people in the lifts in the apartment that you live in. I think we just have to redefine what is success. And if we're connected to ourselves and connected to source, I think it's easy to find that. We just have to
Yeah.
disconnect from all the other voices around us.
Yeah. I always see both sides of it, right?
Mm.
And I so value what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly. Yes, that redefinition of success is something that is so important. And um I know, like, there's two very different sides of me, right? There's the side of me that is um I call it free spirit, hippy dippy, go with the flow. There's that side of me. And then there's this side of me that is the go getter. And that
Mm.
is the like, let's go. Let's, like, I'm really gritty. I love doing hard things. I can do hard things for a long time. Like, those sorts of things. So there's the other side of that
Mm.
is for some women, that success piece is going to look like going for it. It's
Yeah,
going to
a
look like
hundred
building
percent.
that massive career. It's going to look like, doing all the things because they have the energy
Mm.
to do that. And that is their
Yeah.
calling. That is what they're designed to do. And so I love that. And I love that it can be, like you said, it's not a one blanket rule for everyone.
Mm.
It's not one box fits everyone. Everyone has a different piece to bring, but
We
that
do.
element of redefining success is an important one. I love that. I love that so much. So for you, I know that this journey has really tied into the work that you do now. But before we get to that piece, what I want to know is, if people were to find themselves in these circumstances that are overwhelming, like, just a lot is going on. Can you share with us, like, when you were at your lowest point, how did you manage to find that hope, and how did you decide to move through that?
It was not an easy process. I can testify to that. And I think
Yeah.
that process in itself was actually years in the making. So my
Yeah.
spirituality and spiritual practices in that time, and even now, are really important. So just spending time in stillness, spending time just listening to what my soul has to say, because it is forever speaking, as is God. It's just,
Yeah.
are we turning up the volume so that we can hear them? So that was really important for me. And then another key thing, I did some mindful movement process. So engaging the body. And I think that's so crucial for all of us, wherever we're at in our journey, whether we're on a healing journey or we're doing really well in our lives, is to be embodied. So to move through our emotions. And I'm even moving as I'm talking because it's such a visceral thing, to move through what we're feeling at any given time. And for
Yeah.
me, for a season, that looks like mindful and gentle yoga movements. I'd go to a class twice a week. It would look like some gentle walking in the forest and just connecting with nature. And it also involved connecting with friends. I'm very heart centered. Connecting with people is what brings me the most joy. And yeah, just simple processes like that. Reading lots of great personal development books, but always coming back to just the simple things. It doesn't have to be complicated. Connection with self, connection with spirit, and connection with other people.
You started out as a teacher, and now you are a soul healer, an educator, a creative. That's a really big transition between those two spaces, or it seems like a big transition. Practically, what was the first step you took in transitioning once you were feeling well enough to do that?
It's an interesting one because it wasn't geared towards business. It was geared towards connection. So I had come out of many, many years of recovery, and I'm still on a healing journey. I don't have capacity to do a lot in the here and now. But we had recently moved to South Brisbane, and I was looking for social groups to join and looking for connection with women during the day, and I couldn't find anything. So I decided that I'd start something.
I love that.
And that's what I did. So I started a book circle. I met a few different women at a dance class. I met a gorgeous lady at Aldi, and we just started talking. There was someone
You
I
met a
bought
lady at
furniture
Aldi?
from. Yeah, I did.
That's awesome.
And I just, as I felt led to, and as I followed intuition, I think this is a really big part of it, is following our intuition and just going with things even when they don't make sense. I invited a group of women I had very little to do with, other than met them once or twice in different social settings. And I said, you know what? I love reading personal development books. I'm going to start a book circle where women can come together, where weekly we can read a chapter of a book each and then talk about it. Would you like to come along? And that's how it started. And
wow,
it just developed from there. But honestly, it was wow. It was so amazing. I didn't know that doing something like that was possible. I'd never heard of anyone doing something like that. So yeah, it was great.
Wow. So is that what sparked the vision for what you do now? Can you tell us a little bit about that journey of first book circle? And I love this. What it sounds like to me is it started because you were looking for something. You couldn't find it. So you simply just looked around you, followed your intuition, and just kept it really simple, just connected with and said, hey, I'm interested in this. Do you want to do that? And it just started. So I think that is a really amazing point for all of us to remember in our journeys. If we can't find what we're looking for, maybe that's because we're the ones that are supposed to start it. So that's a really important little key for me in what you've been saying. But take us on that journey. From that very first book circle to the retreats and the women's circles that you run now, what was your vision? Cast the vision for us and help us catch
the vision. Oh, that's so good. My vision developed as I was going through it myself. And I think, that first book circle, it fed so much into my soul, and I saw the transformation that it had in the women that joined me. And we were a diverse group. We met together on a Tuesday morning from 9:30 to 11:30. We sat and had our coffees. We talked about what we'd been reading in the book, and the particular book we'd chosen was The Wisdom of the Body by Dr. Hilary McBride. Phenomenal book. I think every woman should read it. It was just life-changing for us. But I think as I watched myself thrive and flourish as I led these women in this book study and then talking and asking questions, as I saw them grow and thrive, and I think that for me was so powerful. It wasn't just a journey I was going on myself in my reading and my personal development. It was leading others in that. And I did it vulnerably. I've had enough leaders in my life that don't talk about their personal stuff, that are very staunch and proper, like we were taught leaders are meant to be. And I flipped that on its head, and I became a vulnerable leader. And I shared from my own heart and my own experiences some really deep stuff, because if I was wanting the women in my book circle to share, about how they felt about different topics around their body and their experience as women in society, then I had to share my own. And that was challenging at times. And sometimes I'd go home with the vulnerability hangover and think, oh my gosh, I just told my deepest, darkest secrets to this group of women. But you know what? They kept on coming back every week. They kept on showing up, and they kept on saying how much difference and the change this was bringing in their own life and their own journey, because we were connecting in community. We were sharing authentically and vulnerably together, and there was no place to hide. So that's where the journey started and began. So after that first one, I ran a second book circle, and some of the same women came along. We did a book called The Healed Empath, which was fantastic. And again, just deeper understanding of who we are, what our unique gifts and skills were. All of the women in that particular group were highly sensitive, which is why I picked that book. And I learned so much about myself through it and my own journey, being empathic and highly sensitive. And again, I watched these women thrive. There was one lady in particular, a friend of mine, and she was in her early 60s and just reading the first chapter and reflecting in the group. And she went home, and contacted me, and she's like, I had no idea I was an empath. She's like, you've just given me a key that literally has made my whole life make more sense than I ever had before. So like with testimonials like that, I had another girl in the group who was struggling with her English. She was a migrant here from Iran, and she just needed community. She needed friendship. She needed a place to practice her English. Honestly, after 2 terms, which was 20 weeks at that time, so over a 6-month period, I saw that woman shift and change. She all of a sudden became more confident in who she was. She had answers to a lot of her childhood trauma that, had been shut down, she'd forgotten about. She started understanding who she was and what her journey was, and what her place in the world was. So it's stories like this where I hear transformational stories and I'm like, oh my word, like this is doing some really deep work. And I think that's when I thought, I can't stop this. Like I need to do more of this. So what does them all look like? And that's when I started the women's circles. And so we meet on a monthly basis. I go through a chosen theme. So my last one was actually on body wisdom and intuition. And we spend 2 hours together, and I guide and I lead women in activities that nurture their soul, that nurture their spirit, that nurture their body. And then we come together and we talk about the vulnerable, the authentic process that we've been going through in that time. And I think just hosting a space for women to be real, where they can share vulnerably their feelings without judgment, where they can be seen, where they can be heard, that for me is where the healing happens. And I see it over and over again, whether it's just in a 2-hour women's circle once a month, or whether it's in a term-long 8-week program and women are coming on a weekly basis for 8 weeks. It's just transformational. And that's what keeps me going. And that's where my vision keeps growing. So after doing book circles and women's circles, my vision was to host a retreat. Because when I host a retreat, then I've got 3 or 4 days with women, and then we can dive really deep, the connections deeper, the soul healings deeper, the nourishments deeper. And women need that. Women are doing it tough at the moment. I think all humanity and all mankind is, but women in particular, we're juggling so much. We're expected to be super women. We were never designed to be that. So a retreat really gives the opportunity for some deep, deep recharge time.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I know you have a retreat coming up
I do.
in April 2024.
That's it.
And then you've got some more coming up later in the year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The next one's in October over the long weekend. So I'm super excited about the retreat. It's less than 14 sleeps now, so the countdown is on. And I keep my retreats really intimate and small. We've got a gorgeous venue, Temple Retreat in Pullen Vale, and I've been there a few times myself. It is just amazing to be in nature, to connect in nature, to connect with one another, and just come back to ourselves. I think we need to make more time for that in our lives, to come back, to connect with self, to connect with spirit, and to connect with one another.
Oh, that sounds so good. I just feel so much peace on that as you're speaking. And I just really know that kind of space, to engage in that kind of space, would just be so fulfilling, so rewarding, so needed. A space to just let some of the busy, heavy stuff go and learn how to be together. And that's so beautiful. If any of what we've been speaking about is sparking something in you, reach out and connect. Let us know in the comments. both of us would love to have a conversation. So let us know. Let us know the pieces that are really touching your heart. The books that Candy's mentioned are going to be linked down below. And please go and check out all of the work that Candy does. There's going to be links in the show notes. You'll be able to have a look at the retreats that are coming up and book yourself in for one if that's what your soul needs. Join a women's circle. Now, your women's circles, are they online or in person?
They are in person. I know so much is online nowadays, but I am such an in-person connector, and the energy that happens when women are face to face in the same space is really special. So I host my women's circles twice a month. So there's a themed one on a Sunday morning, and then one out in nature on a Sunday evening. And I would love to have anyone along.
Beautiful. So if you're in the South Brisbane area, or you're transiting through Brisbane for a work trip or something and you want to connect, that would be a wonderful, wonderful place to do that. Candy, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, just follow your heart, my dears. I think that's the most important thing I can give you. Follow your heart and do whatever you need to connect with your heart, to connect with your spirituality, because all the answers are within you. They're not outside of you, they're really within you.
So good. I'm just letting those words hit my soul and like make their way down into every cell of my body. It's so beautiful. Candy, thank you so much for taking time to share with us. There are so many gold nuggets that you've dropped on us today, so many little pieces of wisdom. I know that I'll be going back to re-listen to this episode, and I just honor you for sharing your story, and I honor you for the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for joining us today. If you were inspired by that story, please check out the description below this video, because it will have all of the links that you need to connect with our guest and access their incredible resources. If you're in a place where you're feeling like, yeah, I know that there is something more for me and I want to start taking those next steps, but I'm not quite sure where to start, we have got your back here at the Freedom Collective. So again, in the description below, there are links to an incredible free resource. It's a 7-part video series where I give you 7 keys that we're never taught at school, we're never taught at university. And what these keys will do is they will help to start putting those foundation pieces in place so that you can bring your life into alignment with who you truly are. Your life, your work, your dreams, the things that are resonating at your core. Okay, so check that out. Connect with our guests. They're incredible. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share it with them. And we look forward to sharing another story with you again shortly on Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective.